Hey, what's going on, everyone? Happy Monday. Happy Veterans Day. Today we have Mark Phillips, former Air Force vet, digital asset investor, and highly acclaimed communications professional. But before we kick things off today, let's roll that intro.
This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
Now, Bitcoin topping $82,000 this morning as futures premiums jump higher. Traders are now betting over $2.9 billion on Bitcoin, soon rising past that 85K threshold.
One of the things that we've seen is really the growth and excitement around stable coins, which are now at an all-time high, around 170 billion in circulation. And we talk to banks all over the world that are really interested in figuring out how can they issue their own fiat-backed products. And so we're powering a lot of these capabilities for them and excited to work closely with banks to bring new products to market.
I think what President Trump is really facing, the major strategic shift that he'll experience in the 4 years he's been out of office is the fact that China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are colluding and cooperating and coordinating together. And they become so much more aggressive and assertive. But I think what the American people had in mind, one of the things is to restore strong American leadership on a world stage.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another live stream. I hope you're all having a wonderful jump start to your week. Today, I have with me a dear friend of mine. He's a fellow digital asset investor, a top investor on Link2's platform, my former employer, and a fellow comrade in marketing. His name is Mark Phillips. Mark, welcome to the show today, sir. How are you?
Hey, I'm great, Ray. It is so good to see you again and to be here with you on Veterans Day. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, and happy Veterans, sir, and thank you for your service and continued service and just everything you do for not just the community, but even for me and my family. This is it means a lot to me. I'd like to just at least give those in the audience a brief background of who you are and your accomplishments, and just basically how we also know each other. I'm going to pull up a picture of us from Washington, D.C. when we were at the Nationals game for a Link2 hosted event back in 2022. I feel so underdressed next to you in this photo, Mark, because here you look dressed up to the nine, very professional. I mean, we're in an accredited investor, high net worth investor environment, and I'm showing up in a T-shirt, an X-Punks T-shirt and hat. But to explain myself, as I was coming directly from an investor event in Portugal. So I flew across the pond just to make it to this event and a few others following. So it was like a marathon of a Link2 events. And fast forward to today, now I'll be doing a marathon of XRP Unleashed events starting tomorrow. I'll talk about that a little bit more. But anyways, for those who are unfamiliar of who you are, Mark, let me give you a brief intro, sir. You have over 30 years of experience in strategic communications. Actually, excuse me. Let me go back. You have 30 years of experience in strategic communications. Today, you're responsible for strengthening relationships and engagement with some of the most influential entities in the world, including the White House, the Department of Defense, Congress, and global leaders. You're a veteran of the U.S. Air Force, where you led large-scale, high-stakes communications operations worldwide, from supporting humanitarian aid operations following the 2004 tsunami in Thailand to managing crisis communications in the Balkan peace talks. In the civilian world, you've taken on impressive roles. You're formerly the CMO at the Friends of National Zoo and Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications at the Conservation International. All along the way, Mark, you've led large teams, rebranded organizations, and launched campaigns that have achieved global visibility. So not only am I familiar that you're an expert communicator, but you're a seasoned investor, an enthusiast of digital assets, a wonderful veteran, husband, just a good person all around. You bring a unique perspective as a trusted counsel to C-suite executives, and of course, as a mentor to me, as a fellow Link2 investor, accredited investor, decorated investor. So, Mark, this is a privilege to have you on the call, and I hope those that are watching take notes and enjoy this conversation.
Well, thank you so much, Ray. Like I said, it's wonderful to be here with you today. I would like to take a moment right at the top to say Happy Veterans Day and thank you for your service to all of the veterans that are in the XRP community and the digital asset community, even more broadly. We do have a lot of military veterans who are in this community, and I do want to sort of take my hat off to them and thank them for their service.
Love to hear that. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. And I hope that those are in the audience share this video and that your message reaches as many veterans across the nation as possible, because it's well deserved. And it's so interesting to hear that that there's a public service individuals that are passionate in the digital asset community as well. I think I'd love to explore the synergies and the mindset, which we will, about the similarities or the mindset from your background, being a veteran in the Air Force, to also well versed in strategic communications, and then also in investors. How does your mindset and philosophy, I mean, how does it make you who you are today? So before we dive in, let's first talk about, the recent developments with the election. Donald Trump is now the 47th president. Our recent conversation that we had last week, you mentioned that, if you don't mind me sharing, that you are a Democrat, and so I'd like to hear your perspective post the recent developments. What are your thoughts?
Sure. Yeah, you had asked me the other day, "Are you okay?" And I've had several friends reach out and go, "Are you okay?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." We had an election. We do this every 4 years. Somebody wins, somebody loses. We have a transfer of power, and we keep pressing on. That's part of what makes America so wonderful, is the fact that we can do that. So yeah, I'm fine.
That's good to hear.
It's like having everybody's got a favorite football team, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes your team wins, sometimes your team loses, and you're still a fan and you still participate. So, and thinking back about my time in service, we are everybody in the military. It's part of our code of ethics. Everybody, whether you're in uniform, a civil servant supporting the military, we all are studiously apolitical. We still vote, we still, participate in the process, but we leave our politics at the door. And so when you go to work in any military organization, you don't know who's a Republican or an independent or a Democrat, or you have no idea, because it doesn't come into the workplace. We do our jobs, we focus on, on the team and the mission. And then we go home and we do our, our voting and all that on our own time. But it's not part of the job ever. It's not tolerated. So whatever I say, if it happens to sound political, has nothing to do with my service in government, or because I'm not a political appointee, or my time in the military.
Thank you for making that clarification, Mark. This is just two gentlemen talking shop, talking about our passions and how they've brought us together. So all good, sir. I do want to play a brief clip of Bernie Sanders recently on CNN, and the reason why I want to share this clip here in a second was I had actually the privilege of interviewing a recent migrant that received his papers, and he was at the Donald Trump rally in Coachella. And I asked him, I said, what brings you here to the rally? He says, I'm here to listen and learn and see what's going on in the community. He as well was a former Democrat. He was recently from El Salvador, coming up and building wealth for his family. He's probably in his, I'd say, late 50s, early 60s. But regardless, though, it was just the video that I'm about to play here in just a second. It's another Latino talking about how he was a not former Democrat, but just saying how the ideologies are very different from what their personal views are, being Catholic or religious, and not aligning with this woke ideology. I mean, I'll play this clip in a second, but I want to hear your thoughts about the ideologies and the difference. And it's funny because here we have the southern border basically is wide open right now, and we're seeing a lot of Latinos or South Americans and other, of course, individuals coming from all over the world. But regardless, so it's interesting to think like if the woke ideology doesn't align with these people's religions or views that are coming up from the borders, is that counterproductive as well? And so let me play this clip here, and I appreciate your patience here while I bring this up here. I'm trying to do this a little bit differently. So
then there's the social and cultural divide that seems to be happening between a lot of people in America who used to support the Democrats and what is now the Democratic Party, or what's perceived to be the Democratic Party. White voters largely propelled Trump to victory in the race, but there was a major shift. The exit polls showed that Latino voters, especially Latino men, shifted more towards Donald Trump. Biden won them by 23 points in 2020. This year, Trump won them by 12. I want you to listen to what a Latino voter told my colleague Ed Lavandera this week.
We believe in, teaching our kids about God, our Christian values, family values. And the Democratic Party is embracing all the woke, left-leaning ideas that it doesn't go with our values.
Do you think it's the Democrats pushing Latinos to Trump, or is it Trump bringing in Latinos?
I think more Democrats are pushing Latinos to Trump.
Let me give one example, perhaps, of this kind of dynamic that we're hearing about. Joe Rogan, very popular podcaster, he endorsed Donald Trump in the final days of the election. 4 years ago, you went on his podcast. You got a lot of blowback for doing that and for touting that he endorsed you. So is this the kind of example of Democrats perhaps shunning or vilifying people who don't totally agree with them?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Look, you can have an argument with Rogan, agree with him, disagree with him, but what's the problem going on in those shows? Clearly, you have an alternative media out there, a lot of podcasts that have millions and millions of viewers. Get on the show. Disagree with you here. I agree with you there. I don't see a problem in doing that. And you're right. I got vilified by some of the Democratic establishment because I went on Rogan's show. Now a lot of other people are doing just that.
So, Mark, and the reason why I also play that clip was you're hearing a shift in the narrative. You're seeing a different perspective from mainstream media as well. CNN basically acknowledging another perspective than they typically do. And so, and they even brought up podcasting. Joe Rogan, which is, I want to say podcasting or independent journalism is starting to take up and eat up market share for mainstream media. What are your thoughts? Is this a pivotal moment where we're seeing mainstream media shift their views in order to compete with these new and emerging social media platforms? Was this whole movement, did it blow up in the one party's face? With what are your thoughts with what's going on in mainstream media and the views? And I'd love to hear more, sir.
Sure, Ray. So I will say right up front, I'm not a politician. I don't work in politics. I'm a government employee and I've been a nonprofit employee. So instead of answering the political question, I'll switch it a little bit and I'll put on my professional communicator hat.
I appreciate that.
And talk about it from the perspective of a challenge that every organization, whether it's a government organization, a nonprofit, a for-profit, doesn't matter. Every organization has a similar challenge in that they really have to communicate with their stakeholders in ways that are going to be received by the stakeholders and about things that are important to those stakeholders. So let me just define a term real quick. So stakeholder is, from my perspective, anybody that depends on the organization or that the organization depends on. So if you're running a business, for example, you have employees, those are your stakeholders. You have customers, those are your stakeholders. You have suppliers. You have people who might be doing logistics and transportation and shipping. All of these are stakeholders. You need to be communicating with them, and you need to communicate about the things that are important to them. Now, that's why you're doing that is an opportunity to communicate about the things that are also important to you. So if a political party or an organizational leader of any kind is not communicating about the things that are important to their stakeholders, then they're missing the opportunity, right? You also have to communicate in ways that that are accessible to your stakeholders. So from a politics perspective, it's the voters. From a business perspective, it's, like I said, the customers, the employees, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But you really do. There's an old axiom that says, go to where your customers are, go to where your stakeholders are, communicate with them there, meet them there. Don't try to bring them into where you are. You go to them. So going back to the Joe Rogan thing, if your voters are watching Joe Rogan and you care about engaging them, that's where you got to go.
Yeah.
So you started the question asking about media, and
I did. I'm sorry to sorry to shift gears on that.
No, it's totally cool. So media has gone through and continues to go through a huge transformation over the last few decades. Mm-hmm. So when I was a kid, there were 3 commercial television networks nationally: ABC, NBC, CBS, and then there was PBS. And so there was an evening broadcast of the news at like 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So you could catch it during dinner, and you might catch an update at night if you were paying attention to the news. And if you lived in a regular sized town or small city, you probably had one newspaper. Mm-hmm. For a big city, you might have multiple newspapers. And so people got their news and information either through the newspaper or through the nightly news broadcast, or maybe through their local radio station. But there wasn't talk radio all the time, 24/7. There weren't 24/7 news channels. There certainly weren't hundreds and hundreds of cable channels. There certainly weren't, an unending supply of online channels with, whether it's on YouTube or X or any other platform. Basically, what we've got now is this really divergent media environment where, for the commercial enterprises, all the big networks, they're all businesses. Mm-hmm. They have to attract viewers to stay in business, because viewers, eyeballs on the screen, are what drives ad sales and ad revenue. And so if you can't attract the viewers and keep the viewers, you can't sell the ads and stay in business. So they're desperate for attention. And it's not that much different with, smaller broadcasters on YouTube or other platforms. Everybody, this is an attention economy. So you've got this fracturing of the media landscape. And so it's even more difficult to be paying attention to who are my really important stakeholders. Where do they get their information? And how do I go meet them where they are? Even if, like Bernie just said in that clip, even if it's an uncomfortable thing, even if it's going somewhere you don't want to go. You don't have Democrats clamoring to go on Fox News.
Yeah.
You don't have Republicans clamoring to go on MSNBC. But if you're trying to appeal to their audience, you got to do that, right? So if your audience is watching Joe Rogan, and there's a significant section of the American population, predominantly young men, I believe, who watch Joe Rogan religiously. Okay, if you want to communicate with them, that might not be a bad place to go.
Absolutely.
So that fracturing of the landscape is one of the things that's a challenge for any organizational leader. Another is the algorithmically driven online media outlets. So depending on what you pay attention to, what you watch, what you click on, what you share, how you react with it, you're informing the algorithm. The algorithm is going to give you more of that. And so we're just building our own algorithm every day as we engage with the various online platforms. That's great from one perspective. We get a more tailored news feed of what we're looking for. But it's also really dangerous because we're not getting the voices that might challenge our worldviews or challenge our assumptions. Mm-hmm. And that's a healthy thing, to have people who will speak truth to you, speak their truth to you. I have a lot of friends from across the political spectrum, and they'll say, "Why do you think this? Aren't you aware of this and I'll think about it. And sometimes they persuade me to change my opinion. Sometimes we disagree. Sometimes I'm able to persuade them. But that exposure to other views is a healthy thing. And that's not what we get unless we seek it out, just because of the way the social media platforms run their algorithms. So that's a dangerous thing, but it also makes it more difficult if you're trying to reach out to a variety of groups that might not share your viewpoint. And so it's more challenging for business leaders, government leaders, and basically anybody who's trying to communicate in this new media landscape.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on, and thank you for sharing your perspective, Mark. What are your thoughts on a comment from Patrick Bet-David? It was about 2 weeks ago, where he mentioned in a tweet that the political landscape has forever been changed thanks to podcasting or podcasters. Podcasters are basically the next or the next wave of new politicians. What are your thoughts on that comment?
I don't think he's wrong. I think he's absolutely right. But by that same token, so much technology has allowed so much of the way we live our lives to change. So, for example, you're running a television studio right now.
Thank you, sir, for noticing.
There are no gatekeepers anymore, right? So it used to be if Ray Fuentes wanted a TV show, you had to go and pitch yourself to a TV station. And to be able to do that, you kind of had to prove that you had the skills and the experience necessary to be able to produce and host a show. And the way you do that is by having already produced and hosting a show, and you could take them a sizzle reel that says, "Here, look, here's what I've done. You know, do you want this on your station?" But it's a catch-22, right? They want people with experience, but that's the way you get the experience is by already being in it. And there were gatekeepers. The same thing if you were going to publish. If you wanted to publish a book, you had to convince a publishing house to take a risk on the expense of publishing your book. If you wanted to be a journalist and write for a newspaper or a news magazine, you had to do the same thing. You had to convince somebody to let you in the tent, right?
Yeah.
All of those gatekeepers are gone. Anybody can publish. Anybody can be a journalist. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't professional journalists that go to school that train in journalism, that abide by a journalism code of ethics and all that. So that makes it more difficult for us as consumers of media to make sure that we're paying attention to outlets or individuals that we trust, or that we're vetting the information that we're taking in and making decisions about. So yeah, what Patrick Bet-David said is absolutely true, and it's even more dramatic than just media. It is everything. You can be your own bank now. You can be your own publishing house, your own TV station, your own radio station. You can kind of do anything. Your own business. Your own business can be in your pocket and on your phone while you're traveling around the world.
The only thing that tech can't do is help us grow one of those glorious beards like you have right now, Mark.
Christmas is coming and somebody's got to be Santa, right?
I'll send you my address. Unless you already know. I'm kidding. Well, hey, I appreciate you leaning in and talking about leaning in on what's going on the political arena and how social media and these various platforms have forever, I'd say, changed and change the trajectory of how we communicate, journalism, like you said, banking, finance. There's a lot that is happening right now, or that's been happening for the past few years too. So it's good to be in this room with you, this digital room with you right now, Mark. Very much so. Shifting gears, I'd like to talk about Bitcoin is at its all-time high right now. Let me pull up it's
sneaking up on 86,000.
Yeah. Is it really? I was going to pull up the Merlin's website here. Let me see. Let me give it a little refresh. It's at 86,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The whole market is just ripping along right now.
It is. And But one thing that's not ripping is XRP still at 59 cents. What is going on there? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I have a lot of thoughts. I've been in this month actually is my 7-year anniversary being in this community.
Wow.
And being crypto. So I have a lot of thoughts. My big thought is there are some assets that tend to react to the news, and there are some that don't react to the news. And for whatever weird reason, XRP doesn't react to the news very much. And sometimes it reacts the opposite way that everything else reacts. I don't know. In the long term, though, I do believe that that XRP has an incredible future ahead of it because of the technology, because of the work of Ripple and all the other developers in the community, the partnerships that are in there, all the people working behind the scenes. I think, at some point, the widespread adoption will come. I believe it's been held down dramatically because of either outright aggression from the SEC and from other regulators in the US government, or just the lack of clarity because Congress hasn't done what they should do and lay out a regulatory framework for the whole industry.
Yeah.
Other countries have figured it out. We seem to be the laggard there. And that is really holding back the whole industry. And on top of that, you had the SEC piling on and filing all these lawsuits that turned into regulation by enforcement, which is counterproductive. Mark Cuban the other day, I think, said something to the effect of this regulation by enforcement approach has shaved at least 1% off the US GDP every year. That's a huge number. If it's not even bigger than that. But the other thing is not just the loss for those of us who are participating in the digital asset space, but the U.S. is losing its leadership. So the rest of the world is moving forward with this. And if you think about where the U.S. has surged ahead economically and in terms of global power, it's been largely on the back of us being a good place to develop, field, and champion new technology, whether it was the space race or development of military technologies that then converted into civilian use. Over and over and over, we've been able as a nation to leverage new technology for economic benefit. And most recently, with the emergence of the internet, I was coding my first websites in 1994 when you had to do it by hand. And we had no idea that there would be, this, what we're seeing emerge as Web3. And, that everything would be digitized and tokenized eventually, and that our lives would be lived online. We had no idea at that time. But because the U.S. sort of took a hands-off, very light touch approach to the emerging internet, that allowed the U.S. to take a leadership position. We wouldn't have things like Amazon and Google and Netflix and all these other wonderful companies that emerged as U.S.-based companies if we had driven all the developers and innovators overseas. And yet that's exactly what the U.S. government has done. Started under Trump's administration with Jay Clayton. It continued under Biden's administration with Gary Gensler. And Congress hasn't been able to put forth, that regulatory framework. Hopefully they can do it now. But it is putting the U.S. at a distinct disadvantage. And we have a very narrow and closing window of opportunity to get it together, to get a regulatory framework on the books, and to give that industry the green light to move forward. Our economic future, I really believe that our economic future hinges on our ability to do this, or we're just going to cede it to other players in the world that are willing and able to move forward without us.
Yeah, a couple things. One, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the the potential incoming of the stablecoin regulations and the impact that it'll have on stablecoin issuers or the digital asset community. But then also, well, actually, yeah, let's start there. Do you think that there's something right around the corner for us, for this community, for the world, underpinned by sound regulations? May it be the stablecoin regs, the market infrastructure bill? What are your thoughts on this, the potential impact of sound regulations coming into the fold for this nascent industry?
Yeah. So I say this with the caveat that I thought that was right around the corner for the last 7 years, and I've been
I
wrong.
know, come on.
But eventually it will happen. I do think everything is kind of lined up now, in part because it's crypto, digital assets, blockchain, DLT, all of that is now recognized as at a national level an important topic that we have to get after. Two, it's recognized by both the Democrats and the Republicans and as a bipartisan issue. Right. It's no longer, even in this election, it started as a wedge issue for the Republicans, and it quickly shifted to, oh, okay, yeah, everybody's saying, yeah, we need to do this. We also are going to apparently have enough people of that mind that are pro crypto in Congress to actually get something passed.
Yeah.
And what has come out of the statements that have been made by the incoming administration are that they would support that as well. So yeah, I think the regulatory framework is actually going to happen now. The advisory committee, the news came out this week about Charles Hoskinson and others being named to a commission to provide advice to the administration. I think that's awesome. You have people who are innovators, and OGs in the community. And have been driving this forward. Having a seat at the table, I think, is really important so that whatever regulation we actually end up with is well informed. It's easy to get it wrong. It's hard to get it right. And so the more voices, informed voices that are participating in that process, I think we all win as a result.
Yeah.
I think there are major entities on Wall Street that are primed and ready to go with this now. And so, if you were thinking about this strategically, you want to line up all these pieces on the chessboard, right? And then you go, okay, yeah, now we're ready. Gut feel is we're there, or we're really close to being there. And I think that's probably what's driving a lot of this market movement that we've seen this week as the prices are surging. Not that they'll keep going up or that anything, goes up in a straight line forever. Yeah. We're still going to have that volatility. But I think there's a very positive sentiment and a lot of energy across the digital asset space that, we are right on the cusp of being able to finally move forward and get that institutional adoption that we've been looking for.
Yeah, well received. And I don't think I've been in this industry for 7 years, but I think I'm roughly around close to 5. And so, like you, Mark, it's been a waiting game, but also not just a waiting game. Learning how to explore this market, and for me, it was a little bit more than I felt like. There's more to just buying and holding. It was what else can I do to either maybe leverage these assets or see where these new rails lead to, who's building on them and such. And so, I have on, well, I'll put back on screen here. It's for one, so the audience can see, we're at almost a $3 trillion market cap today. Bitcoin's surged past 86,000. I mean, we're, like you mentioned, we're all following the halving as well. So we've got the prior trends to pick up or piggyback off of. And I'd love to talk about, the last time we saw a bull run was what, 2020, 2021, correct me if I'm wrong, but while we saw Bitcoin hit its all-time high, which was at the time 60,000, Coinbase, a private company, basically a secondaries app for crypto, IPO'd in that environment and went from $36 per share to over 360 on our Link2's platform. But do you think we'll see something along those lines in this bull run? Do you think it's just going to be confined to one potential blockchain company? Will it be multiple? Could it be if we do see stablecoin regs coming into the fold, could it be a stablecoin issuers like Circle, Ripple, Consensus? What are your thoughts?
You remember the old adage, trickle, 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 flood?
I think I've heard that from time to time.
Yeah. So we've been in the trickle stage forever.
Yeah.
Right. But again, all these pieces are getting lined up. The technology is being developed and brought online, tested and brought online. The regulations, the big players, everybody's kind of getting their place and their strategy identified and ready. So I think once we get that regulatory clarity, get that green light in the U.S., the fact that most of the rest of the world is ahead of us really opens it up for us, for the U.S. Like I said, Wall Street, everybody's starting to line up. Everybody's kind of doing their own stablecoin thing. Some have talked about them publicly. A lot have not, but guaranteed that they're not planning. They're paying attention. They're not they don't get to be huge, powerful, really wealthy institutions by burying their head in the sand and not paying attention to what's going on. They're not going to miss the boat either.
No.
So I think what happens is we're going to see a flood of news about new products being offered, whether they're ETFs or ETPs. That we're going to see new ways to manage custody, and if you're interested in leverage, for example, to leverage or get some kind of yield off of your assets. I think the banks are going to be involved in that. I think all the investment houses are going to be involved in that. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be one. And again, that makes probably, if the stock market is going up at the same time and there's liquidity and crypto is ripping, that probably makes a really good environment to IPO in. So companies that have been sort of sitting back and going, no, the time's not right, the market's not right, we're just going to keep our powder dry until the time is right. The time might be right coming up.
You're absolutely right. It is funny because along the lines of banks and things like that, I was quickly trying to look up, I've seen marketing materials from Citibank on their letterhead. They're getting ready to roll out their digital asset unit. Individuals have given head nods that they're potentially acquiring banks to launch products that are compliant within the financial system, or maybe FDIC insured, who knows? But regardless, I think we're there. And I always, and I'm glad you brought this up, because about US being a laggard, I think, I would love to hear your perspective. If the US was a shepherd in creating the internet itself, how could the largest economy in the world become a laggard in a technology that they built? What are your thoughts? Is this part of the game? Is it strategy?
I don't know that it's strategy so much as just human nature. Incumbents don't want to be disrupted, right?
Yes.
If you got a good thing going, you don't want to be disrupted. If you're a Blockbuster and you got people coming in to rent movies all the time, you're not interested in shifting gears to mailing DVDs, or even more so to streaming. So you're going to resist that, right? If you're Xerox and you're making a ton of money making copiers, you're not interested so much in digital photography, even though that's where it was developed. And so our history, especially in technology, is that we have incumbents who resist change because they see it as disruptive. And then at some point, they don't have a choice. This is where game theory kicks in. At some point, you have to participate as well, or you will and truly be a dinosaur, right? You will be irrelevant.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the banking system saw crypto as a threat. And because they weren't able to make money on it, I think the investment system also thought saw it as a bit of a threat, and parts of the regulatory organizations saw it as a threat because it's, hey, who has the clear mandate to regulate this? It's not really clear. All right, what are the rules? They're not really clear. So, is it a threat? Is it an opportunity? If you see it as a threat, you're going to try to kill it, or at least neuter it, or hobble it as best you can. And I think all of that happened. We're still, sort of sore and bleeding from, the legal fight that we've been going through, that, Ripple's been going through, and that, other blockchain companies have been going through.
Yeah.
And so at some point, everybody goes, okay, this is really going to happen. There's huge opportunity here, and there's also a huge threat, right? So if we're liable to be disrupted, we need to get on it and figure out how do we take advantage of this shift that is going to happen with us or without us. And so I think that's where everybody just piles on board, and there's lots of competition, lots of headlines that brings all kinds of other people in who aren't necessarily paying attention to it right now. And that's when, you start seeing cover stories on the business magazines. You got lead stories on the business news broadcasts, and things like, Bitcoin passing these milestone prices are great, because they generate interest. But what really happens is when there is competition in the marketplace and the incumbents start to feel the pressure, that's when the green light really switches on, and they start really moving on it as well.
Yeah, with Bitcoin getting to 86,000, encroaching on six figures, I think it's going to be on everyone's radar, in no doubt. But I think my audience, yourself and I included, are here for potentially the next wave of tech, the improvements.
Absolutely.
Kind of people compare Bitcoin to the earliest Ford truck, and you don't see those on the road anymore. But there's been improvements, and now.
Wouldn't you like to have one?
I sure would.
Right. So yeah. So just because it's not the the newest, bestest, fastest, doesn't mean it doesn't have value.
Oh, absolutely. There's always a place in the heart for classics.
That's right. That's right. And I think Bitcoin has sort of carved out its niche in this market. Even if it's just store of value, great. And that's the cool thing is, as we get to the point where everything of value gets tokenized and put on chain, there's room for a whole host of players, whether it's utility coins or payment systems or custody solutions or digital identity or, smart contracts. There is so much opportunity here, that it's people who go, oh, well, it's, winner take all. No. It is the opposite of winner take all. It is like if you opened up the West back in U.S. history, and it was gold rush combined with we're finding oil, combined with the land rush in Oklahoma, combined with the
airplanes
opening up and airplanes and everything all at once.
Yeah,
I think that's what we're going to see. Is there's going to be this mad dash to stake claims in these different places and compete within these various slices of that ecosystem. But overall, huge opportunity, absolutely huge opportunity. Now, the caveat I would say is anytime there's opportunity and hype, there are people coming in looking to grab your money and run off with it. And so, especially when there's not clear regulations, especially when there's not clear, nobody's basically policing the space and protecting the investors. And hopefully that's where the regulatory agencies like the SEC shift their focus and then actually start focusing on investor protection, and which is, you could argue, has not been what they've been doing. I think they've been hurting us for the last few years, hurting us as investors. And And so we do need the investor protection. We need somebody sort of policing the space and making sure that there is somebody looking after our best interests. But it should be like a really light touch from a regulatory perspective. And yeah, but other than that, I think that I hope, but I really do believe that this will happen within the next 5 to 10 years. We'll see a monumental transformation in how value is accounted for, how it's transferred, and it's everything from intellectual property to stocks and bonds and precious metals and collectibles and real estate and everything else.
Yeah.
We're gonna go through this transformation that will be at least as impactful as what we've seen with the emergence of the internet and the emergence of smartphones and mobile devices, that everything's connected, information flows, now value is going to flow. And I think it's going to be dramatically transformative.
Absolutely. And I have on screen right now, I would say a perfect example of transformation, of disruption, of restructuring of an archaic system like the capital markets. On screen is the website link2.com, my former employer, but also the common denominator that brought us together, Mark. Us both being top investors on Link2's platform, participating in their Team Apollo membership, the top investors on the platform. What are your thoughts on, or regardless of your thoughts, you've shared a lot of your thoughts. I want to know more about your POV on private investing. You're obviously an accredited investor to have participated early on in Link2's journey. Is there things that you learned from your prior experience in the service, to crisis communications, to things you learned on your own on your own investment journey? How did you get to becoming an accredited investor? How did you find your way to Link2's platform? I mean, do you mind sharing with the audience just a little backstory on your investment thesis and how it landed you this way, or
sure. Yeah,
guided you this way?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, like I said, when we were talking about in the intro, I spent, a career in the military, went into the nonprofit world and then came back to government. Well, it's no surprise that you don't get rich working in the military or the nonprofit world or the government, but you can make a decent living. And so if you live, conservatively, frugally, and you invest diligently and consistently, you can accumulate wealth over some period of time. I think, like with any investment, it's really important to do your research. Mm-hmm. It's important to really ask the right questions and know what you're investing in. The whole digital asset space, because it's so new, I don't know of anybody who's been in it for a long time who hasn't, gotten ripped off somewhere. I'm not going to name any names, but we've seen some incredible flameouts of different platforms. Mm-hmm. And I don't know anybody who's been here more than a few years who hasn't gotten burned at least once. And that's after doing their due diligence and all that. So you guard yourself as best you can. But then the investments you actually make. So part of it's the platform, part of it is the actual investment. You want to make sure that what you're investing in makes sense. I mean, some people are hard over quants, and they want to go, peer into the books and make sure the numbers make sense and all that. Other people are more fundamental in their approach. They want to make sure, does this business make sense? Is what they're proposing is that a good business? Is there opportunity there? Are they positioned in the right way? Do they have the right connections, the right leadership in the company? Are they do they have the resources that they need to build the business out and with enough runway that they can, get it off the ground, to use the airplane metaphor? But you got to do your own research, and so that you're comfortable with putting your money in. But like any investment, you run the risk of it going to zero, right? And so you have to know that when you go in and write that check.
Yeah.
So when I discovered Link2, and I had known about the VC firms. So everybody knows about Andreessen Horowitz and a bunch of the others. And that has been walled off for most people for a long time. Well, forever, in that you got to be an accredited investor, which is a big hurdle for people to get over, but it's not impossible. And you can also get over it in a couple of different ways, either, by net worth, or by qualifying with certain investor exams.
Yeah, I put the requirements on the screen for those in the audience that might want to learn more.
Exactly. So there are ways to get there if you're willing to put in the effort. But then even if you got over that hurdle, you had to get your foot in the door with one of these VC firms. Well, if you're a regular everyday investor like we are, they don't want to talk to you because their initial buy-in was typically $250,000. Well, the normal everyday conventional wisdom is about diversification among your investments, right? So are you going to be able to put $250,000 into one initial investment that's in one company that, oh, by the way, is still private, and private companies, because they operate under different rules than publicly traded companies, tend to be more risky, right? They haven't gotten off the ground. They haven't gone through the IPO process. And they don't have all the disclosures that a publicly traded company would have. So that being able to put $250,000 into one investment, and then do that enough times to have some diversification, that's also too big a hurdle for most people.
Yeah.
So this idea that Link2 brought to the market, that you could do, you get over the accredited investor hurdle, but now you can do smaller tranches of investment that are more affordable for more people than that $250,000 or $500,000 minimum investment.
Yeah.
Bringing it down to 25,000 or 10,000 or 5,000 or 2,500. And Link2's approach, which was particularly attractive to me, was they make the initial investment in the private equity, and then they part it out and sell it in smaller tranches, so that it's more accessible to a broader range of investors.
Yeah.
Who had been blocked out from the big VC firms. So for me, that was terribly exciting because it's a new opportunity. The risk is a lot higher. You have companies that will flame out and never get off the ground. But for the ones that do succeed, and this is kind of the investment thesis that I understand the VC firms follow, if you invest in 10, you might only really expect one or two to actually, become absolutely no risk, no reward. You might only expect one or two to become thriving concerns, but they could be so fabulously successful that one being successful because you got in early could more than make up for the loss that you have of the other 8 or 9.
Yep.
So that was kind of the value proposition. For me, it was super, super attractive. Now, again, I was coming from a place that may be different than a lot of people, because I had done a career in the military, and I'd worked in nonprofits and for the government. There were other investments and pensions and things like that. So it wasn't necessarily everything going in all at one time. I was also somewhere at a point in my life where we had already raised our kids. We had already sent our kids to college. So the big expense, we'd already bought our house, the big kind of expenses that you expect in the game of life, we had kind of already passed those for the most part. So the risk from my perspective was a little bit lower than it might be for somebody else.
Yeah.
But the opportunity that Link2 provided, just getting your foot in the door, and then the companies that they were vetting and then buying equity and offering equity in, were some of the ones that I was really, really interested. Like I said, I'd been in the XRP community since 2017. So the opportunity to actually invest in the company, Ripple. I mean, you own XRP, you don't own any of Ripple.
Yeah.
Right? But to own Ripple, the company, was crazy exciting. And then there are others, all these emerging technologies that are driving and are starting to drive now, but certainly will be driving our economy in the future. The chip makers like Cerebras, their approach, the AI companies, other digital asset companies it's just amazing. Now, they might all go to zero. I might lose everything. That's the risk we take, right? But like you
Don't
said,
say that to me, Mark. Do not say that to me.
no, I don't think it's going to happen. I wouldn't have put my money in it, but it's possible. But the same thing is possible, if you're buying, any stock off the Nasdaq or the New York Stock Exchange, right? They could all go out of business. So yeah, you got to risk something to get something.
Yeah, no risk, no reward.
Do your research. Pay attention to the things that you believe are meaningful, and just invest, in a clear-eyed way.
I think you are hovering above the target always, Mark.
So my biggest thing with Link2 is they keep bringing on new companies with, really compelling value propositions, and it's like, wow, I could see that one going somewhere. And it's like, oh, I'd like to get in that one. I can't afford that yet. I'd like to get in this one. Yep, can't afford that one yet, but I put it on my list, right? And so, I think just like there are new digital assets that are emerging all the time, you do your research, you pay attention, you pick your targets, you're clear about your investment thesis. Same thing with this, with the private equity. But now we've got platforms that are allowing us to do that. I think this is just the leading edge of what we're going to see. We're going to see the opportunity to do things like buying, tokenized real estate. So if you want to own a piece of, an office building or, a big development complex, whatever it is, you could certainly do that in the future without being the big developer, right? The big real estate developer. Same thing with intellectual property. I mean, I've always been a big David Bowie fan, and he was revolutionary for a lot of reasons, but one of the things he did way back, I think it was maybe in the 90s, is he sold what were called Bowie bonds. He fundraised for a new album, and so everybody who bought one of these bonds was able to profit on the proceeds of the album sales, which is phenomenal. Well, now it would be tokenized, right? And could be automated. So that kind of ownership of intellectual property, you could, if somebody, whether it's a performer, an athlete, whatever, they get a new contract, they could tokenize the contract. Mm-hmm. And you could not, and maybe you are able to own part of your favorite sports team, and maybe you're able to own part of the contract of one of your favorite players. The list just goes on. If you can think of it, somebody's probably going to try to do it. So there's huge opportunity out there. So from my perspective, the challenge is going to be narrowing down on the things that you really think are going to go somewhere and that you're really passionate about.
I think that that comment in regards to passion is very imperative. It's especially when you're driving down a road with no headlights on in the middle of the dark and you have no idea where you're going. You're gonna have to fall back on something, and if it's not faith or passion, I think you might have a chance of burning out or fizzling out or lose steam. At least I don't know. That's kind of my mindset as we're going into this era of new finance. And for instance, even doing this exercise right here is new to me, even though I've been doing it for a few months with my own channel. But it's all of this is relatively new and a new process, new way of thinking. How do we collaborate with other third parties in this new era of creating or of commerce and such? And so there's a big question mark for me, or of just the unknown, and it's exciting and also terrifying at the same time. But I don't want to say I live in a place of fear that motivates me, but if at the end of the day, if I can't feed my family, that's fearful, and I'll use that as a motivation to keep me going and put one foot in front of the other. But then it also, like you said, passion or an excitement. This is a lot of fun. This is a great journey that I'm really excited to be on. So that in itself is carrying me forward or putting wind in the sails. And so it's, and in addition, it's just also all the great people. I don't want to I'm not trying to sell this community to the audience. I've genuinely made wonderful lifelong friends. We all share similar mindsets, and I'd like to consider you, Mark, as a longtime friend as well, even though we've only known each other for a few years. But in this dynamic time and this new economy, or call it crypto, and when everything's moving 100 miles an hour, people tend to say that this is like almost like we're living in dog years. It's like 7 years tucked into one.
That's true. But I tell you what, it is really cool to be part of this community. It has been really cool to be part of this community. And we fight and we scrap and we disagree, and people get their feelings hurt and they leave, and some of them, they usually come back. And we've all been there. But we're on an incredible journey together, and it's, it has so much potential. Love you mucho too, Ray. And thank you for inviting me on this new channel, and congratulations on your new venture. I've always loved following along with your storytelling, which is always superb. What you were doing for Link 2, and now what you're doing for Ray Fuentes, I think is phenomenal. And so I'm super excited that you've launched this new channel. I'm really eager to see where you take it.
Thank you. Well, it's kind of like you said, you got to just do it, and then people will see that you can do it. And so, otherwise, I mean, what do you have to fall back on, or to show as part of your portfolio of experience?
So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Where would you like to take it? I mean, you've got a YouTube channel now.
Yeah.
Where do you want to take this new venture?
Well, I have a note here in my office that says I want my channel to create financial freedom for me and my family, so that this would be one of the vehicles for generating wealth for me and my family. But at the same time, my wife loves her job. She just got elevated to a regulatory role for United Health. So she's on she's an attorney, so she's on the regulatory team. So when there's changes in laws, she's part of the team that helps United Health Group pivot or be mindful of the new landscape. And so I don't think by me creating a platform that can sustain generational wealth or such is going to keep her from following her own passions, is where I'm getting at. So I think we both really like what we're doing, and it satisfies us, like we're accomplishing something. And so with her, I don't actually see my channel changing anything with what she's got going on, because like myself, she's passionate about what she's doing, and I'm proud of her, and I know our daughter is as well. I mean, she's only 3, but aside from that, she's a wonderful mother and a great wife and a great a daughter and daughter-in-law. So I think for me, it's just, I'd like to take this channel to a place where it's established enough to where it's reaching a large audience. I mean, I would love for it to be a Joe Rogan of reach, but baby steps. We have a proud 125 viewers on this channel right now, so I gotta keep at it for some time to get to 125 million.
Well, Joe Rogan wasn't Joe Rogan when he started out, so
he was Fear Factor, and I watched all those shows back in the day, and so I'm a huge fan of Joe Rogan. I've seen him in stand up in LA and a few other times, and he's just a great man, and so that's why I'm a huge fan of him, Patrick Bet David, and Elon, of course. And so I feel like with with X and the direction that it's going with the new payment features and the television features that they've been launching out, plus with the ability for X Spaces to reach a enormous cohort of individuals, I think that this is going to be and I've heard chatter that there's going to be new ways to optimize or generate revenues, and so ad revenues. And so I'm hopeful that by continuing this journey, that there's ways that we'll be able to generate wealth that I'm not or familiar of yet. And so I'm enjoying this ride, Mark. It's very. I mean, my hands are sweating a lot of the times because I'm like, all right, what do I do with the buttons here? Am I going to accidentally shut down this live stream? What? Oh my gosh! It's so. But because this is live, and it makes me have to do things that are uncomfortable, and
that's where growth is.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to be out of your comfort zone to grow.
That's what this whole process has been like. So. Even though I'm no longer at Link2, I'm forced to do. I'm forcing myself to continue growing because I was doing a lot of that in Link2 as well. So this is just a continuation of my professional journey, and it's an exciting one. And so, what's next though in the short term is I've got 11 flights in the next 6 days, and going. I'll be participating and going to the XRP Unleashed the premieres. Let me actually bring.
Are you publishing your tour dates?
Am I publishing? I don't know. Should I be?
Probably. I mean, people want to see you.
Yeah. Well, I will be at all of the XRP Unleashed premieres, and so I fly out to Phoenix tomorrow. Then after that premiere, I go straight back to the airport, fly to Houston, go to Houston. I think my next flight after the Houston premiere is at 6 a.m. So I'm going to be doing a lot of red eyes throughout this week, but I want to get that data. I want to get that experience. I want to network with the community. I mean, I'm hopeful that there's somebody else out there that might go to all of them like me, just so we can say that there's someone I can enjoy that experience with. But otherwise, this is just going to be me on my own journey, sleeping in the airports. Sounds terrible. Bringing wet wipes because I mean, but I'll be documenting, and hopefully that underscores like my passion for this community, for this industry, for this new career path, and this new style of independent journalism, and getting into the scene and dragging that data, the commentary, the experience, the vibes back home and sharing it with the community. So that's what I've been trying to do. And I just see a Lost Art put a comment in the comments here, putting in the work. I mean, thanks, Ivan. I was just supporting them for their IRL event in Fullerton this past weekend, and then I'll be seeing these guys next week for the IRL XRPL meetup in Los Angeles, which is going to be around the LA premiere. So we're going to meet up a couple hours before the premiere to network with, I'd say, like-minded professionals. Maybe there'll be some well-known celebrities there. I don't want to call them influencers because they're well beyond that now. Maybe there might be some that are that participated in the premieres themselves. But it's going to be an opportunity for us to just get together. And so even before this live stream, Mark, I was working with or connected with an ally of mine in the platform. His name is Boone Bergsma, a decorated developer. Blockchain developer. He is focused on the XRPL and tokenizing carbon credits and things like that, but he's helping me build token gated environments on my website, which those in the audience can check out as rayfuentes.io. And there are some NFTs that are available that give you access. So they're token gated NFTs that give you access to exclusive content, exclusive environments, particularly to those holders of the asset. And so
that's another great example of where we're going with this, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, shoot, while I got you on the call, why don't I just bring up the website so I can just show you real quick while I got you. And I'm pretty excited because let me present this screen here. I probably could have done it a different way, but anyways, yeah. So what I have on here is, I mean, this is the landing page. You can learn more about me on the About page, services that I provide that are focused on marketing or providing the same similar or evolved services that I once provided for Link2. I've grown significantly since I've gone on my own. But then there's also, like I said, that NFT collection where you can purchase NFTs, and that actually this is basically like the marketplace. Once these are showing all the NFTs that have actually been purchased by community members, and so I've gotten some traction on mainnet already. These transactions are being recognized on the XRPL ledger on mainnet. So I'm really excited about what we're developing on my platform, and as well the capabilities that the XRPL provides, and the network and the developers. And so it's just a really interesting time, and it's a very exciting time, and it's a very scary time for me, because it's, I've always I sold business insurance before this for 10 years, right out of college, Mark, and I had a paycheck coming every 2 weeks. And now it's like, shoot, man, I got to really grind, drag something back to the cave, and think outside the box. And that's which is good. It's exciting.
This is the perfect time to do it, though. I mean,
yeah,
you don't want to do it when nothing's happening. Everything's happening now. This is the perfect time to be doing this.
It's so funny you said that, Mark, because I literally got a text message from my mom today of a video, and the gentleman was saying the exact opposite. He was saying, right now, is a time to just sit back, find ourselves, and just relax. And I watched this video. I'm like, absolutely not. I didn't say this to my mom because I was busy I had to get ready for this, for our presentation here. I'm like, that's exactly the opposite of what I'm doing right now. I got to strike while the iron's hot, keep growing, keep building, and networking, and that doesn't stop. So it's almost like, who's putting out that type of content? What's the incentives? Why is that being like, so you got to, just like you said, do your own research, make decisions on your own, and then be confident in those decisions, and then trust in those decisions. And so that's where I'm at. And sorry, Mom, if you're listening right now, I love you. I just got to take some of the things you send as grains of salt, but there is a lot of gold that she does provide. So I love her mucho. She was going to be going to the LA premiere for the XRP Unleashed, but she's decided that it's in everyone's best interest to give it up and allow some other participants that are hungry to develop their brand and engage. And so I love that she's just thinking outside the box and outside of her domain, which is, she's a wonderful mom. So anyways, Mark, I know it's Veterans Day, so this is your holiday, sir. This is, you should be kicking your feet up and enjoying, I don't know, maybe a Mai Tai or something, but or some eggnog. I don't know what
I think we need an XRP themed drink, like an official XRP drink.
Oh man.
Like a mixologist in the community needs to come up with something.
Oh, that sounds like a spicy drink. It might be highly. It might be just a spicy drink. I don't know. I might have to sip on that one.
It's got to have a slow burn, right? And then it's got to end with a bang.
Oh, that is amazing. And then maybe if never mind, I'll wait for the mixologist to step in. I actually bartended in college, and that helped fund my way through college, but I couldn't tell you how to make an old fashioned these days. It's I can tell you how to make an NFT though.
There you go.
Hey, well, Mark, before I let you go, is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience? Any final comments? On the top of XRP, what would you do if XRP hit $5.89?
Well, okay, this is going to sound really boring, but this is old guy speak, right? So I did a spreadsheet ages and ages ago. One of the influencers in the community had talked about making your plans when you're not emotional. And so while we were going through the doldrums of nothing happening market price wise, I made a spreadsheet and said, okay, if these conditions happen, what's my exit strategy? How much do I sell at a certain price? And how much do I keep forever? So one of my first targets is $5. And so there's a certain percentage I would sell out just to kind of de-risk a little bit. But there's a big chunk of it that never gets sold ever. That, I'm thinking about it as this would be a great, I have 4 grandkids. Now, this would be a great thing for them or their kids, down the road. So,
yeah, I think you're right there. It's
but until we get close to $5 initial point, I don't even, it's like, it went up a little bit, it went down a little bit. It doesn't matter.
No, yeah, I think after all this time, we've become numb to the dynamic movements or lack of dynamic movements, if you really think about it, for some of these digital assets. But regardless, though, I think the I don't want to say delay, but the time allowed for us to continue to learn or
invest, right?
And invest
So
and to continue
I
to grow.
just looked at it as, okay, as frustrating as it has been for the last however many years, especially during the lawsuit, it's an extended buying opportunity. It's like, you go to the store when they're having a sale, right? You don't go to the store when they advertise that the price is at its all-time high. You wait till it's on sale. Well, XRP and a lot of the others have been on sale. So this has been a crazy opportunity. I think we will look back, and I certainly hope we will look back at this period as and a great, great, great buying and investing opportunity that we took advantage of, that we will never get again. That's what I really believe. So my advice would be, have a plan, develop that plan when you're not emotional, when the market's not doing something crazy up or down, and then commit to sticking to it, and then just follow your plan.
Follow your plan. Stick to it.
I got it, Ray. I got to tell you this one story. So when
Sure.
I got into XRP, it was around Thanksgiving of 2017. So it literally was 7 years ago. And it was because, my kids were like, hey, what do you think about Bitcoin? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And so that's when I first started. And at the time, in early 2018, the market was going nuts. And the thing was, all of the platforms, the exchanges, were not able to keep up with the demand for new business. And so if you're trying to establish a new account and do your KYC, all that stuff, they couldn't handle it. And so there was a group of us that were all trying to get in, and it was going up as it eased up to $3.84 per XRP. And we were just like, here, if anybody got an account with a platform, we were just like, here, take my money, please buy me some. And we didn't care how much it cost. It was kind of like Fry on Futurama, where he's like, take my money, please.
Yeah.
And because we were just so desperate to get in. Well, that's that kind of euphoria, right? We were FOMOing in a big way. I know how stupid it is now, but at the time I did. And I thought, oh, we're going to miss it. We're going to miss it. As it turned out, we didn't miss it. So take a step back, take a deep breath, develop your plan, follow your plan, just be unemotional about it. That would be my advice. But that said, you can't wait until it's a sure thing, because at that point you missed it, right? You got to take some risk to get that reward.
Yep, that's very true. And there's a lot to be said here. There's a lot of research to be done, and what a ride it's been. I've had to press pause in investing in digital assets right now, Mark, just because of my situation. But why I've done that is because I'm forced to invest in myself right now. That's all I can afford to, is invest in myself. Maybe participating in new courses like Google certs, or building the website, to outsourcing services to professionals overseas using platforms like Fiverr or Upwork. And so I'm just basically or investing into plane tickets and other things of that nature to keep getting that content, to get out in the scene and do so. And I went to the Ripple Swell a few weeks ago. Then I went to their Ripple Uphold event in Vegas, and I fortunately I was invited to the Ripple Uphold event in Vegas, but I had to guerrilla warfare my way in and get those interviews at the Swell event. And but why I'm laughing and where I'm getting to is because of this, I've I've slowly became not friends, but very familiar with Ripple's security team on these events. And so they're like, they're like, Ray, come on, you can't be interviewing these guys here. Get off the property. And I'm like, and anyways, and I'm like, I don't want to say their names, but come on, man, I got a family to feed. Let me get
Don't
those.
get me fired.
Yeah. And they're like, Ray, we see how hungry you are. Just interview them over there, off out of our jurisdiction or whatnot. And so where I'm getting at is it's just been a lot of fun. I'm learning the caveats and how to navigate things without ruffling feathers or stepping on toes, and it's just a learning experience for me. And so I'm it's a lot of fun. I appreciate these opportunities to dive into this virtual landscape and collaborate with someone like you, Mark, because it's a lot of fun. I've learned, even through this exercise here, just one, how to be mindful of various, just the political landscape and how it intersects with finance and things of that nature. And so I'm just taking things slow and one day at a time.
So who's the number one interview you'd like to do?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, would you be mad if I said Donald Trump?
No, it's your show. You say who you want.
Yeah, I think that would be him or Elon Musk, Joe Rogan. I think Patrick Bet David. I'd like to brush elbows and learn more. I learn the most obviously when I'm in the environment, in the experience, and that's kind of just how I operate. And so I would love to learn in that type of environment from one of those.
Well, make a plan and go do it. Just make it happen.
Just show up at Joe Rogan's.
That's how you get arrested.
I'm just kidding.
Get arrested. No, I'm saying just make a plan and figure out how to sort of elbow your way in.
It's this world, may it be Hollywood, may it be finance, it's so shallow. And what I mean by that, it's relatively easy, not easy, but if you have the good intentions and enough grit, you can get your way to wherever you want. And so I've made it to ICM, one of the top agencies for acting. They said don't send your comp cards in your folder of experience, and on their website it says don't send us any of your comp cards. We're not going to open it. Regardless, I sent to ICM, CAA, all these different agencies, and ICM got back to me within a few days and sent me on my first audition to Days of Our Lives. But I hadn't done any auditions then, was so inexperienced, but that led me on a really interesting journey and path to take courses and learn from very decorated people as well. But even then, I just didn't seem satisfied. I'm like, I don't want to base my revenues or my income off of someone's flavor of the day type of thing.
Right.
And I want to build a business, and I want to build something that I'm proud of. And that's so I was probably 21 at the time of that epiphany. And I started my backpack company, Rosa Packs, which, if you have a moment, I'll share. It was basically a backpack company, similar business model to Tom's Shoes, where you sell product, you take your proceeds or product and donate 1-for-1 to someone in need. For me, since I had an adopted sister, my family adopted a 1-year-old when I was 18. So basically that exercise or that experience really heightened my awareness for just all the opportunity that my parents provided for me. And so I thought, why don't I create a backpack company? We called it Rosa Packs because roses being the symbol of love, packs being backpacks, Rosa Packs. People are like, are you trying to Rosa Parks? Like, what's going on? And no. And so I'd have to explain myself. But anyways, we got these backpacks into Tilly's, into tons of shops from San Diego to San Francisco, or I say me. And we sold out, and we took over 200 kids on field trips fishing trips to going on the Kings, the Staples Center for the Kings game to do slap shots on the ice before the game. This was cool. And so, and even my little adopted sister was doing slap shots on the ice right next to me. And that was one of the coolest things ever. And fast forward to today, she's, she was playing, she got a full ride to Menlo for golf, but has switched schools to now go to University of Las Vegas to get her pro card. So really talented golfer. But what took her from the environment that she was in to now is opportunity, structure, and just a great support. And so that's kind of what I try to embody through Rosa Parks, or just also embody as an individual and be excited for. So anyways, I can keep rambling all day with you, Mark, because I like talking to you, sir. But anyways, will I be seeing you anywhere for XRP Unleashed?
I wish I could. I'm still trying to pry myself loose to get to the DC one.
Okay. Well, for those in the audience, and yourself included, let me see here, because give me 1 second. Share this tab instead. Let me go here. Right now, it looks like the XRP Unleashed for Washington, there's still some tickets. Actually, let's start at the top. LA sold out. Boston, there's some left. New York, there's some left. Houston sold out. Atlanta sold out. Washington, there's a few tickets, and looks like Scottsdale. Where I was getting at was, I myself, one of my buddies has mentioned to me that he's willing to donate his ticket for Boston to any one of my members in the audience. And so if you wanted to go to DC, let me know. We've got a ticket for you. But for those in the audience that want to go to the Boston premiere, I'm pretty sure John Deaton's going to be there. That's why I bought my ticket originally, was to go.
John Deaton should be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely should be there.
That's. I mean, I imagine he was, and so originally I was going to go to just LA and to Boston, but then I got a lot of friends, and I'm easily convinced, and so I'm going to go to all of them, and it'll be a good time. And so, but if for those in the audience that want a free ticket to Boston, please write "Love You Mucho" in the comment section on X and share the video, and I'll put you in a raffle, and we'll give one of those Boston tickets out. Again, you got to share the video on X, and then also write "Love You Mucho" in the comments, and then I'll put you in a raffle for a free ticket for Boston. Hopefully that's well received, because it's very prompt too. I got the text message right here, but but anyways, hopefully I see you in DC. I promise you I'll be dressed to the nine like you when I saw you last time. I'll be fully suited.
I'll be in shorts and t-shirts. So.
roll reversal,
and I'll have some story that I just came from Portugal.
Yeah, there we go. All right. I'm here for that. We might have somebody that's already ahead right now. We got Randy Schumacher, also a fellow Team Apollo member on Linked2's platform.
Randy's jumping on it quick.
Yeah. He's a good man. He actually flew out to the Ritz-Carlton when I supported and hosted co-hosted an event at the Ritz-Carlton with Link2 and Val Hill, the team at Val Hill Advisors. So it was good to see him on the West Coast. But anyways, Mark, appreciate you, sir. I'm going to shut down this live stream with a video from Christine Lagarde talking about the future of digital assets and things of that nature. I'd love for you, if you could stay on for till I close things off. I'd love to pick your brain on a couple things.
Yeah, absolutely, Ray. Thanks again. Appreciate it, and congratulations on the channel launch.
Thank you, Mark. Love you mucho, awesome. Sir. I'll talk to you soon. And everyone, thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate you. And if you're listening again and want to go to the Boston premiere for the XRP Unleashed, make sure to write "Love You Mucho" in the description of the X video, and then also share this live stream on X to your audience. Greatly appreciated. Thanks for tuning in. Love you mucho.
Let's look now at the technological progress. Just like in the 20s, setbacks in some areas that I've just tried to describe, at least for one of them, are matched by advancement in others. We find ourselves in the midst of a digital revolution that echoes the technological boom of the 20s. Just as that era saw major development in electricity, automobiles, mass production, Our era is witnessing an unprecedented growth in digital technologies. In particular, the rapid development of artificial intelligence looks set to transform a swath of industries, including the financial sector. Financial technology is already having a profound impact on finance. In 2022, fintech generated 5% of global banking revenue, totaling anywhere between 150 and 200 billion US dollars. This share is expected to exceed $400 billion by 2028, growing at a clip of 15% per annum. What are banks doing? They're not sitting idle. They're buying fintechs and adopting their technology to enhance their lending operations. By changing the nature of financial intermediation and fostering competition, fintech can significantly strengthen the transmission of monetary policy decisions to the wider economy, influencing interest rate, asset prices, credit conditions, and ultimately growth and inflation. Let's look now at the technological progress. Just like in the 20s, setbacks in some areas that I've just tried to describe, at least for one of them, are matched by advancement in others. We find ourselves in the midst of a digital revolution that echoes the technological boom of the 20s. Just as that era saw major development in electricity, automobiles, mass production, our era is witnessing an unprecedented growth in digital technologies. In particular, the rapid development of artificial intelligence looks set to transform a swath of industries, including the financial sector. Financial technology is already having a profound impact on finance. In 2022, fintech generated 5% of global banking revenue, totaling anywhere between 150 and 200 billion US dollars. This share is expected to exceed $400 billion by 2028, growing at a clip of 15% per annum. What are banks doing? They're not sitting idle. They're buying fintechs and adopting their technology to enhance their lending operations. By changing the nature of financial intermediation and fostering competition, fintech can significantly strengthen the transmission of monetary policy decisions to the wider economy, influencing interest rate, asset prices, credit conditions, and ultimately growth and inflation.